I have a bit of an issue. I've got 3 charity campaigns in the next month.
Only 3?
Only 3. What is Shiur, what is Sunderland, one is thing. Sunderland's live now. Now the problem is I pay a fortune in fees to Sunderland. Absolutely can't imagine. Shiur also. And the problem is that it doesn't even give me a reduction on the fees.
So there's no point even giving you them.
I noticed on the charity one said he put £2 million on my page, but Sonny said it wasn't him. I said it wasn't Shiur. The Shiur.
Rabbi, you post the link now on the Zoom.
Yes, I'm on the Zoom.
Oh, is it? It's a conflict of interest.
Conflict of interest.
Not happening.
No. Do not give the sub. If you are thinking, but don't please. No, I want to take into consideration. First of all, there's 3 of them. Second of all, it doesn't help me. You pace yourself. That's right. That's right. I might feel like saying that, but I feel a bit bad to say that.
It makes more sense.
It makes much more sense. No, but really, seriously, don't put like. What's the right way to say this? I didn't take on anything.
I got $7,000.
It's only take 1.5, I think. I have no idea. Now, Moshe, you put on me 10 grand already, didn't you? Yeah, David, you have a lot of going on probably. We're talking about matching campaigns. You probably get out quickly before. No. I really don't want. No. He's also for Sunderland. Yeah, whatever you give me, you have to give him. Yes, actually, Shai already saw this was the Shabbos. I don't know if you got it in the post. Get in the post a letter from Shuvitana. I got it. You did. If you look carefully, there's 2 sons of mine in the photo. I couldn't get my children to bed just now. They're all busy looking at the pictures of their brothers who I haven't seen in a few months. It's quite sweet. One is Chichil, one is Sameh. If you look at the bottom. No, it's with these passport photos, those little passport photos. Okay. As soon as I don't want people to extend themselves in any sort of way.
Basically, just give me the money.
No. If you pay to put £10 on somebody's account or £20 on somebody's account, you can put them. But
Do you prefer it to Visa?
What do you mean?
Give it to you. You have to put it on the page.
You're asking me when I'm live. That's not fair. I have Sunderland coming down. This is. I prefer some fees. What can I do? Oh, let's see how many millions on. Okay, we're getting off the point. Started. We're up to 7 lines from the bottom of the here. I've got somebody coming to stay by me for a couple of weeks. He's from Australia. I don't know him at all, but he was one of my son's yeshivas. And he can't go home for Pesach. Well, it's a bracha. I tried to just explain to my children that it's too easy after crowded, etc. So I said, look, his parents live the other side. Joking.
No, they put you on 2,000, right?
Put me on 2,000?
Yeah, that's your target.
I thought you gave me 2,000.
He's about to.
As I said to my little boy, I said, it's the other end of the world. Like, it's the end of the world. So he started thinking for a minute or two. It is the other end. Is it the last house at the end of the world? Or is there a bit more space? I was getting nervous that he'd fall off the edge. Couldn't explain to him that we're upside down there because I think, anyway, Muslim to Chusa. We're up to 7 lines from the bottom on Daf Kuf Vav Amud Aleph. We have to do a daf and a half, or at least close to that, because if a person did not mind to do Havdalah this Motzei Shabbos, you can do Havdalah the entire week. But how much of the week? Until Wednesday, which the person would say it means till Tuesday afternoon, up to Wednesday, not inclusive. Until Wednesday is till Tuesday afternoon. He held Yosef Abzer Kabir do Avasi. Regarding Gittin, what happens is, if I divorce my wife on condition that she gives me money, and I say to her, you have to give me the money after Shabbos.
You do the other way around.
I say to you have to give me the money after Shabbos. And she gives it to me on Thursday. Is that after Shabbos? Nope. No. She gives it to me on Tuesday. That's after Shabbos. I say to her, give it to me before Shabbos. And she gives it to me on a Monday. It's also no good. Because it's too long before Shabbos. Rather, when you get in the Chod Shabbat, Trib Shabbat, Vitlosa Shabbat, sorry, Vitlosa Bosa Shabbat, that's called after Shabbos. Aber Chadishi, Mali Yoma, on Friday, Kam Shabbat. So if Sunday, Monday, Tuesday is considered after Shabbos, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is before Shabbos. The Rosh Paskas this in the end of Perek B'She'ochsoi in Gittin, 7th Perek of Gittin. Because when the Samuel there writes, very interestingly, that the Neshama Yesera comes on Shabbos, and what happens is it leaves your body slowly when Shabbos comes out. So Shabbos a bit less, Monday a bit less, Tuesday it's gone. And on Wednesday, the Neshama Yesera starts coming. So that's why Sunday, Monday, Tuesday is after Shabbos on Wednesday. And that's why it says on the Shiur Shalim on Wednesday morning, what do we say? I don't know. Why do you say L'chadno? It's not part of the Tehillim. It's from the next. It's not that part of the perk of the Tehillim. It's because we're preparing already for Shabbos and the Neshama is already coming in.
Oh, Sunday's a horrible day.
Why? Because it's like Shabbos is going down. I know. I was wondering about
Sunday's
that.
never a nice day.
It's like challenge. That's fine.
Yeah, because the Neshama is leaving you. You do not make a bracha on the candle. Why don't you make a bracha on the candle if you make a bracha on Motzei Shabbos?
Because that's when it was created.
That's when it was created. Oh, the Rabbi says like you. The Rabbi support that once you finish Motzei Shabbos, you can't make it on the kind of fire. The fire is only for what's the word? Fire is only Motzei Shabbos after you've lost it. How do people over here wash before Kiddush? Anybody here wash before Kiddush? You wash before Kiddush?
Yeah.
Oh, you're Yak, by the way? Oh, so now you're going to discuss whether what Chali is doing is okay. There were more passages like Hanu to the Yodov, Lo Yakach. Top of Kuvava with Beis. If you wash your hands, you cannot make Kiddush. Why can't you make Kiddush? Because you wash your hands, and then you're going to say the long bracha of Ashkun Shadu, like you gave a Shabbos and the Zechem separations, the whole bracha. It's a hefsek which you're washing and eating. Rav Yitzchak bar Shmuel bar Mas, Akatinu noch nafshe to Rav. Rav's not yet been nifta. Shokhinu l'shmaitzi, you've already forgotten what he's saying. When a person can misquote a Rav, even when he's still alive. Zinin sagina v'karim v'kaved Rav. Many times I used to be by Rav. Now the Rashbam says it's a mitzvah to make kiddush on something which is tasty for you, something which is precious for you. Sometimes Rav was very, very hungry. So what did he want to make kiddush on? Challah, because at the end of the day, it's very precious. He's hungry. Sometimes he was thirsty and he wanted to make kiddush on wine. So Zimnin de Chaviv alei bifta. Sometimes he worked for bread with kiddush bifta. Zimnin de Chaviv alei chama kiddush chama. Says the Rashbam that he would make kiddush sometimes on challah and sometimes on wine. So you see that's not a hefsek, because if you wash and then you make kiddush on bread, you're making that special tefillah on the bread. And how can you do that? Is a vide that it's not a hefsek.
No, we're not making kiddush on the
Oh, I was waiting for somebody to ask that question. So you didn't hear the question, you missed it, you've lost it. But you should have asked the question yourself.
Yeah.
You should ask the question yourself. What's the question? Okay, you didn't hear the question, so you ask it. What's the question?
No idea.
What do you mean, no idea?
Again,
let's go through it slowly. And you'll ask. I'm going to tell you what the Gemara says, and I want you to ask the question. The Gemara says that the Gemara passes, if you wash your hands, you can't make kiddush. Why can't you make kiddush after washing your hands? Why can't you make kiddush? It's a hefsek. Says, well, how can you say such a thing? Rav himself would sometimes make kiddush on bread and sometimes make kiddush on wine. And when he made kiddush on bread, it would be a hefsek. What's the question? The question is like this. There's a fundamental difference between you're making kiddush and you're planning to have a slice of challah. And in between washing and having challah, you make kiddush on wine. That's a proper hefsek. But Rav never did that. What did Rav do? He would make kiddush on challah. So he would wash, take a piece of challah, say hamoitzi lechem minaretz, and then make the bracha of kiddush on the hamoitzi. That's not a hefsek. How can you compare? Maybe it is a hefsek, but you can't compare the discussion.
He didn't do both.
He didn't do both. That means either made a kiddush on challah on wine, but it's not the same as making a hefsek between washing. Just asks a question on the Rashbam. And he says, very, very upset. It's the third Tosfos. Let's just do it very briefly, at least the beginning of it, quite a long Tosfos. Kaddish, if the Pushas Pam Shmi Kaddish, the pass Mokum Yan, Kino, no to Tchila, but have Kiddush, hefsek, it's not a hefsek. The Kosher Rabbi Nutam, and sorry, the Kiddush, the pass, Vadele hefsek. Shah Kiddush, Ulacha, Moitzi, that we go in the Tui. Do they have hefsek, Bevocha, the Achila? The Kosh, didn't the Tilo have hefsek. Kaddish, the Yain, Shukuda, Moitzi, hefsek, but the Tilo Achila. It says that I don't understand how can you possibly compare. Here, you're washing, you're having this nice of bread, you say amoitzi, and after that amoitzi, before you eat it, you make the bracha of the special bracha of Kiddush. But says the Rash Tosfos, but the Tosfos is like this, that the Rav was not sure what he wanted to make Kiddush on. He would sometimes think, I'm going to make it on bread, sometimes make it on wine. Sometimes he would wash, because he fancied bread, and then after he washed, he would change his mind and say to himself, you know what, I'm actually thirsty, I'll have wine. So what he would do is he would wash, make Kiddush on wine, and then eat the bread. Now that is the same as what we were discussing before, and that the Gemara, that's the kasha. How can you say it's a hefsek? This is a very big issue. Oh. Now, let's just say a couple of points, by the way. Just look at what it is. A person, when he washes his hands, how long does it work washing your hands? How long does it work for?
Waiting, you mean, till you eat.
No, how long can you keep your hands clean for?
During Corona or?
The answer is all day long. All day long. The halacha is really you should wash before shachas v'nechama. If you know that when you wash in the morning, make sure to keep them clean all day long. So this is the first thing as a kasha. What make it taste there should be a problem of a hefsek. And Taisa says it's a dafkimida when you have non water or you do have water. If you have water, you shouldn't. But somebody who's very very makpid can. What's the word for it? He can wash. Can keep his hands all day long. Means if you wash your hands for amoitzi in the morning, and you know that you've got no other water, you can bench, and when it comes for your next meal, just make amoitzi again. So it says this. Oh, this Gemara says it's a hefsek. So this is not the same. Oh.
Clean is tumatah or clean is actually clean?
Clean is tumatah, and that means you haven't touched anything. That means you've been keeping your minds on your hands, and you know what your hand has touched. It hasn't touched anything. There's no tumatah. It means you haven't touched your hair, you haven't touched your shoes. But the point is that you have to never be mesiach das from your hands. The Rashbam and Tesis both at pains over here to point out that one does not wash for Kiddush. Why can't you wash for Kiddush? Because the Gemara Paskas are noted liyodah for Pevus has megasir ruach. It's a sign of haughtiness. Okay. So let's get so far what we've learned. We've learned so far like this. One Amora says you can wash your hands and you can't make Kiddush in between. The Gemara says the Rav used to. The Gemara says that there's go back and is exactly what the difference between what was Rav doing wrong. The Beis was washing on bread. Now, in this very long Tesis, the third Tesis, he asks is what Chaim is doing, that he makes washes. Oh, and then you make, what do? You wash,
Then you make Kiddush.
you make Kiddush on wine, you drink the wine,
Yeah.
and then you make hamoitzi on your bread. This,
Some people do it on Sukkot as well, make use of it.
We do
Oh.
sukkahs, we do
Some people do
sukkahs.
it.
what's the bail on sukkahs?
Because then you're not
Then
going
you're
to
in out.
They got Kiddush Mokim Sudda, you haven't got a problem because you can't. Oh, right. So Teres discussed it. We can't mock it.
I don't think that women lasted long, you know.
We can't mock it. Let's see the 3-4 lines for the bottom of the middle size taste of the taste. Do the time they catch another pass klal. You should make Kiddush on bread. He's not managed your case make Kiddush on bread. Vacha plus it to the Kaddish for Tzvila Lav Yesh Kiddush Mokim Sudda. V'chashin on Shemei Yafik. Rav held you allowed to because Rav didn't like you because Rav said you could make Kiddush and make afterwards go for meal. You were scared you'd go to somewhere else. But otherwise you shouldn't. The taste says. Right, it's got a whole shtickle about making Kiddush on beer, and then he says on bread. Beis says not happy to make Kiddush on bread. Okay, not much exactly the same whether it's a hefsek. Yes, he says like this. What?
Saying you'll go somewhere else.
Yeah, he's worried you'll go somewhere else. Right.
Can't talk, I thought.
But no, because we were talking about he's going with Shittas Rav that we're talking about. Rav says that you can go somewhere else. Rav holds Kiddush Mokim Sudda. That's what it holds you all out to talk as long as you're keeping your mind on the bread. Okay, it's quite complicated. So we'll leave it. But Beis it's a shayla. The Beis that the Ramah says that that's the minhag. The Ramah says that's the minhag. And by the way, Tesis also says that even though for Havdalah you can do. Let's just see the very last line of Tesis. Okay, very, very last line of this third Tesis. The scholar de Milsa. You can use beer. Anybody use beer for Havdalah, by the way? What's Pesach? Use every week? Use every week. What's beer? We see this whole Gemara about it. Also, the Gemara discuss it. You can't make Havdalah on bread. Bla la pas. You can't make Havdalah on bread. But we do time even catch them in a pass. We do time you can make Kiddush on bread. The Ashram says you can, by the way. Okay, so stop and catch the Sheikh. Can you make Kiddush on Chama Medina? Says you can't. The Machal says you can't. Oh, yes, if it's a Chama Medina. I tell you what it is. The Lashonus of the Gemara is mashma that if you mamish prefer Chama Medina, if it's better. And a lot of people will tell you they much prefer tea or beer than a cup of grape juice. I've been drinking wine ever since it started brachas. I hope you can tell that I've been drinking wine. I get the 4.5%. Yes. If a person has eaten, he can't make kiddush. If a person eats Friday night before kiddush, he can't make kiddush that night. He has to wait for the next morning. Does anybody want to say why? Why, if you eat Friday, you come home from shul, by mistake, you have a slice of cake or something, you can't make kiddush. You've lost it. You have to wait for the next morning. Why not? We said that kiddush shows that you're bringing the meal l'kovod Shabbos. Now you've got an eaten. Now you make kiddush. Nobody's going to say that you bought the meal for Shabbos. You've eaten because nothing to do with Shabbos.
Why don't they put having a meal Friday afternoon with Shabbos?
Oh, we were called to abuse that you're allowed to make kiddush after the meal. Yeah, so it's not like his shit. It's okay. Look at okay. Let's go weiter. By mistake ate before Havdalah. Hopefully, Cassidy gave him Havdalah, he made Havdalah. How can you go to Avasi's house? The Rebbitzin of Avasi was very upset. She was very hurt. Often Rebbitzins get more hurt upon themselves when they get lack of cover. When the husband gets lack of cover, many times the Rebbitzin gets more upset. She said, you Avasi hold that you're not allowed to eat. You're not allowed to make Havdalah after you've eaten. And now Yomi is eating, make Havdalah after you eat. Oh my Lord, Shokik Rabbi Svili holds like his Rebbe that holds you all allowed to. Now, there's a very, very interesting Tosafos. We hear it's only like one line. Tosafos discusses it in a number of places. There's a second to bottom Tosafos. I remember it's interesting, some drasha stick in your mind. About 25 years ago, Chaim Kaufman spoke about this Tosafos, about 40 minutes. I remember most of what he said. But he quoted this Tosafos, Ishli v'toy midi. I think Tosafos are very, very, very kasha. He ate before Havdalah. You're allowed to eat before Havdalah, by the way. Everybody know? No. And we have a principle that HaKadosh Baruch Hu arranges that tzaddik shouldn't do an Aveira. How could he eat before Havdalah? It says Tosafos. Meaning that Kavachim tzaddik. Tosafos discusses a number of places. There's two kinds of things which are not allowed to eat. Something which is forbidden because the food itself is no good, like chaza, possible cholov, shrotzim. And sometimes it's only forbidden because there's nothing wrong with it. The time is no good. Says Tosafos, Shmuel doesn't want a tzaddik to eat something which is no good because it goes into the body, becomes part. But to eat at a time when it's no good, that's is okay. Tosafos in Gittin says that it was by mistake and there was a shiur of loyness, and therefore it's okay. But Tosafos discusses this musar. Do we ever have? What he did was he brought all the different Gemaras which talks about Amiroyim or Tanoim did mistakes. And every time you got the same question, how could they have done a mistake? We have this principle, you've got to always answer either it wasn't a bad mistake or it was a kind of mistake. That was it's interesting, like Drosha, if you ever want like a Yom Tov Drosha to speak about this. Okay. So he ate before Havdalah, but he still made Havdalah.
Here we're talking about
No, he made after Havdalah thing, and even so, he shouldn't eat. Okay. Now the Gemara just brings many shittas about exactly what we just said. If you eat, you can't make kiddush, you can't eat Havdalah. That's how we pass them. You can make kiddush, you can make Havdalah. We pass them, you can't eat, you can't make kiddush, you can't make Havdalah. It says Tosafos, top Tosafos. V'chein halacha, that's how we pass them, that you can make kiddush, can't make Havdalah. If you can't make Kiddush Friday night, I've had it once or twice, we've been very, very ill Friday night, and you can't make Kiddush Friday night, so you make Kiddush Shabbos morning. What bracha do you make? You make the second, the long bracha of Kiddush, you make it Shabbos morning. Yeah, we should Kiddush Shabbos, add Motzei Shabbos until Motzei Shabbos, but it's up to Shalosh Shudas time, you can still make Kiddush. Mishlei Hivdu b'Motzei Shabbos, ba'ad v'olech kol Shabbos kuloi, It doesn't mean all week. Taisa says we paskin only up to Wednesday. Amema, the Gemara now brings another version, which is almost exactly the same as the previous version with one small difference. Pasach lo shvait is over by Lish. They had a slightly different version. Omar over lechasat mekadesh to mavdik. If you ate, you can make kiddush make abdollah. Mishlei kiddush be'erev Shabbos. Mekadesh ve'olech kolayim kuloi. You can make kiddush the entire Shabbos. Mishlei devotz Shabbos. V'av ve'olech kolayim kuloi. Only that day. You can only make Havdalah on Sunday. You can't make Havdalah on Monday and Tuesday. What do we pass? Because you make Havdalah Monday and Tuesday. Anybody know? Yes. Can anybody prove it? If you can't, you deserve a lechai. That you can make Havdalah Monday and Tuesday. Okay, another proof. Okay, it's a fair proof. Another proof. I bet a better proof. So Taisa says, what happens if Tisha B'Av is a Sunday? When do you do Havdalah? Sunday night. It's already Monday. That's the second Taisa. What?
No proof for Tuesday.
Yeah, it's no proof for Tuesday. But we only had one opinion for Sunday. We never had the opinion Monday, yes, Tuesday, not. We had Sunday, yes, Monday, Tuesday, not. We had Monday, Tuesday. Look at Taisa. It says Taisa. What?
How do you know you make a product?
It says, "V'aloch lish lekavod demad aduvi b'Shabbos kedom b'chil al b'tishbo b'shchol yisrael Shabbos b'chil after lachat tanis b'chein b'seder dav amon mifruk v'amon go consider you'll find that." Okay, says the Gemara weiter. Omulei ma'inuka ma'kshisha b'dav chisda Ravashi. Ma'inuka ma'kshisha, the sons of Chisda, said to Ravashi. Now, there's a few times the Rishonim argue who are ma'inuka ma'kshisha. Yenuka means young, Keshisha means old. The Beis Rebbe of today is called the Yenuka. Why is it called the Yenuka? He came Rebbe very, 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 very young. He came Rebbe long before he got married. So Yenuka means young, Keshisha means old. Some say the names were Ma. One was older, one was younger, and they called one Ma Yenuka, Ma Keshisha. Both were called Ma. They gave the two sons exactly the same name, Ma. If you ever run out of names for your sons, call Ma. Okay. It's a nice name to give yourself. Others say they gave one Ma Yenuka Ma Keshisha. There's a Machrekas in Rashi and Rashbam, not here, but it's other places. Why he gave one Yenuka, one Keshisha? One pshat is the older one he called him Keshisha, the young one he called Yenuka. Others say,
he wasn't older yet.
yeah, no, that's a bit of a problem. The others say like this, Paket. The older one, he called him Ma Yenuka, because when he was born, the father was young. So he called him my young child, Ma Yenuka, because I'm still young. When he was older and he had a child, he called the next one Ma Keshisha. So who was older, the older one or the younger one?
Yeah.
The older one was younger, because the one when the father was old, he called him old, but in my say he was young. He was a Ben Zekunim. That's right, Ben Zekunim, the son of an old person, is actually a young person usually. Okay. They said to Ravashi the following story. Zimna chada ikle amema la'asreid, amema came to our town. We never had any wine. I see the Sheikh, we gave him beer, but no, you have to. I'm tell you sorry. He did not make Havdalah. Uvos Tovas, he went to bed that night fasting. The Rashbam says, not the normal words we use for fasting. Soim or Mu'una. So the Rashbam says it's paraphrasing a posuk in Daniel, Uvos Tovas. Now this posuk in Daniel is a fascinating posuk. It's such chizuk that he did. What happened was a king called Dayovish who loved Daniel. And what happened was the ministers hated him. So they said to the king, your kingdom is a bit weak. We need to strengthen your kingdom. Make a new law that only people should beg you for help, nobody else. They shouldn't pray for anybody else. He didn't realize what they were thinking. So he made the law. And then they found Daniel who should have 3 times a day with windows facing Yerushalayim. They caught him, brought in front of the king. The king tried to get him off. But the ministers said to him, if you get him off, your whole kingdom will be lost. So they had no choice but to put him in the lion's den. And they always spent the entire night fasting and davening to Hashem. And the next morning he came to the lion's den and he shouted out to Daniel. And he said to him, did Hashem save you? Daniel said, of course he did. And he took all the ministers, the wives, and the children, threw them in the lion's den. And the pasuk says, before they even landed on the ground, they were torn limb from limb because the lions killed them. But Yovesh slept the night hungry. So Bas Tovas, that's the words come from. It's very interesting. And then he wrote a letter to the whole world that you have to serve the God of the Nil. Oh, we'll see. Very good. Very, very good. Oh.
Not Esther's son.
No.
No, there's Machlokas. Some say it was Dayovish, and some say it was a grandson. Yes, I know. It's Machlokas which Dayovish it is. It could very well be Daniel's Esther's son. I know. I don't want to get into that. If you read my Sefer Glimpses of Light, I've got the entire. Okay. The Beis, what happened was, one small thing is the Rishonim ask a question. The Ran asks a tremendous question over here. He asks, why did he fast? We pass him that if you've got no wine, you're allowed to eat. Does anybody know a proof that if you've got no wine, you're allowed to eat Motzei Shabbos?
Rab did it. No, that's
No,
fish.
no. No, okay, we didn't make Havdalah coffee, but let's say he didn't have any coffee either. Why did he fast? We pass and you're allowed to eat. Where's the proof you're allowed to eat? You should know this. Yeah, where? Which? Okay, more than that. The Gemara says that somebody comes on Motzei Shabbos, he did on Friday. Somebody comes on Motzei Shabbos, he's only got 1 cup of wine. What should he do? He should wait for after benching because he wants to use 1 cup of wine for benching. The question is, wait a second, what is he going to eat? So he said there's a proof that you're allowed to eat because he's only got 1 cup of wine. Says the Rishoni, if you only got 1 cup of wine, you're allowed to eat, and then afterwards bench and then use 1 cup of wine for $1. Of course, if you've got no wine, you should be allowed to eat. So the Rishoni said that he was being machmi on himself. Alternatively, Takamim held you're not allowed to. But Maisa, we pass it, you're allowed to. He was being machmi on himself. Okay. The Maisa, he went to bed hungry. The workout is on the mocha the next day to Achdev. We worked hard, we found him wine. Abdul, and he made Abdullah with Midi, ate something. The next year, so he came back to our time. Again, we never had any wine. In the old days, by the wine was very, very expensive. So I see no shikha. We bought him beer. Omar, he said, I see that these people in this town, they like eating beer, drinking beer. Shmam not to last. We learn 3 halachas. Shmam not to tefillah. Tzvorch she'avdil ala kois. We see that somebody makes an Abdullah in tefillah, he has to make Abdullah on a cup because he obviously, he would have surely made Abdullah in shul. So the Rad says, what's the Rad? Maybe it was being machmir. The answer is, if there was no issa lechatchila not to eat, why would it be machmir? And with lechatchila, you shouldn't eat before Abdullah. He was being machmir even b'diavad. But we see that person lechatchila shouldn't eat before Abdullah. He's allowed to make Abdullah all week. He says the third taste all week. Oh, there's no right allowed to make Abdullah all week. Why not? Because he made Abdullah next morning. So where's the right all week? Says Tosus. Says the third taste. Only the whole of Sunday. And since we passed it out to do a week, so we choose to quote it as all week. But the Maisa from the story, you've only got a proof of 1 day, no more. Because he made Abdullah next morning. Can you make Kiddush on beer? I said, Hashta. Presume are 3 kinds of beer, which are made from 3 different kinds of produce. Presume is made out of barley, Te'eni is made out of figs, Asti is made out of strawberries. They make beer of these things. In the olden days, what did they normally make beer out of? Dates. Very good. So these 3, which are much better quality, the boy name of Rabbi, and he never said it's okay. So barley, so date beer, which is no as good, it's not as good as any shaila. Solve me no kedusha do back the shin and nave, not out to make kiddush. I do mabdilin. Malu avo chisto achim barak shevish mekachin lov, kachin mabdilin lov. You're not allowed to make Abdullah on beer either. It's v'dami of tachlifa ba'avim or mashmok shevish mekachin lov, kachin mabdilin lov. You're not allowed to make Abdullah. The mice we pass that you're all allowed to make Abdullah beer. Levi shoda Rabbi. Levi sent his Rabbi shichro bat gosi magdi. Beer made out of 13 pressings. What you used to do is to press the dates and pour water over the dates. Then you'd get a fresh batch of dates, press them again and pour the water over the next batch. And the water was had within it the taste of 13 dates. Have a boss and tuva, it tasted very, very nice. This is a kind of beer that you should make kiddush on of. This is something that all the praises in the world. What does beer do besides for tasting very nice? Anybody remember we once had it? Yeah, as a laxative, but it's not so good, it's too much. But Laila Tzari gave him pain. Yeah, it was too much of a laxative. He had it causes me pain, and I should use it for Abdullah. He changed his mind, he decided not. Omar Yosef, make a native I'll never drink beer. Would never drink beer because it's a lonely drink, or never for Kiddush for Abdullah. Now, over here, I just want to say one small point. A native Barabim, let's see the 4th taste first, Odu Barabim, because Sava de Barabim ain't no yafar, you can never undo it. And a Dafka Adas Rabim ain't no yafar. Unfortunately, small Gittin discusses 2 kinds of Nedoim. Barabim is if I get up now and say, I'm never going to eat bread. So what happens is that's a native Barabim. Adas Rabim is I say like this. I won't eat bread because of what I think that you don't want me to eat bread, and as long as you don't want me to eat bread, I won't eat bread. So we pass Rabbi. There is a Adas is never far. I'm going to say this. I don't want to repeat this so quickly, but I only once in my life saw a proper Neder Adas Rabbi. Unfortunately, it was a person whose wife went off the derech, she became not from, and he wanted to get married. He couldn't. She refused to take a get. So she wanted. The halacha is you can deposit a get, but we're scared that that made the bigger Shemei said, really matter what you're allowed to do. You're allowed to divorce your wife, whether you like it or not. In fact, you're allowed to marry more than one wife. But now, sorry. That's right. But and also you can marry more than one wife. But nowadays we don't do either of these things. Therefore, nowadays we only marry a second woman if you've deposited the get and based it. But after you've deposited the get and based, everybody knows you can move that to the get, right? It's the whole fourth parak of get and a shalach get. You can move that to the get. And can you imagine the headache it would cause? The man can do. So we don't want him to vat to the get because then it's not fair to the wife. So what we do is we make him give a get, and then the neder al das rabim that he'll never be mavatal it. Yes, and it's not so possible that even that works because it gets even more complicated. That's just an interesting thing when you would use das rabim. Or for example, the Gemara's got other places where the Gemara does actually use das rabim. If you need somebody to do a mitzvah, you're scared that he won't do the mitzvah properly. You can make him make a neder al das rabim that he'll do it right. They keep it till one day.
Why is that called giving to her then?
She can have it whenever she wants it.
That's classed as divorce?
No, it's not classified. She
You're not
refuses to take the
putting
get. She refuses to take the get. So she's not divorced. But the fact is, it's available to her the minute that she wants.
That's nothing to be married.
According to some shit, not according to everybody.
That's
That's
have to marry a bottom as well.
That's a separate. That's somebody who goes crazy. Not for somebody who's not for. That's a different story. I've lost the place. Sorry, I really should have talked about it. Okay, it's an interesting thing to see where we do our das happening. Well, there's other cases where, for example, if you've got a teacher who's not doing his job properly, you can make a neder das rabim that he will be employed again, etc. You can't make a neder das rabim is used that a person should not be able to undo it. Okay. I'll drink flax water, and I won't drink beer. It was put off beer. You say shichra when you kind of shichra. Somebody who kags, and he's what kags in English is miserly, stingy. Somebody who's stingy and doesn't use wine for kiddush, but uses beer for kiddush, which is cheaper. So the Hashboch won't give him brach in his panosa, and he'll end up only earning enough money to buy beer. Rav Ashkei Rav Huna the Kodesh Hashicha. Rav found Rav Huna the Kiddush on beer. Omalei shoya but mikdes to Hashicha. You must be doing business from beer. And therefore, since you're doing business from beer, so therefore beer has become very precious to you. Since beer has become very precious to you, that's why you're doing business from beer. But Lamaisa, we shouldn't do Kiddush on beer. As we said, Kiddush on beer, you shouldn't do, but after you can. You can't make Kiddush only on wine. And you can't make a broch except for wine. If you drink a cup of water, you don't make a brocha. If you drink a cup of beer, you don't make a brocha. What? Yeah, I suppose that Rosh Hashanah that grape juice is wine. That's the idea. The grape juice is wine. So it's like buying a cheaper kind of wine. You're not. If you're doing it for tagging, for stinginess, maybe it's no good. But if you're doing it because that is wine, it's just you don't like. It's like saying you want that kind of wine instead of you like a light wine, a dark wine, etc. You can't make a bracha of bracha except for wine. You don't make kiddush on beer. When you make kiddush, you just need to have a small sip. You have to have a cheekful. So when you make kiddush, you have to have a cheekful. So how much is a cheekful? It says machlokes rishonim. Some say it has to be enough to fill both cheeks, and it's got to do with the read below look mov plural or below look more. Imagine more. It's got both below look more and below look mov. It's got the side below look mov. Tosis Paskas is the fifth Tosis. Without every Tosis stuck on this page. If you push it to one side like this, then it would fill up. And it says Tosis, "I have a pochis bevis." I'm looking at also have a yes bevis. There's roy bevis. When it comes with the shots of the castle, after the baiting of English Chabosh, going to fix with the nasa. And there are a lot of rishonim on this Gemara, very lot. Tosis shit is you only have to have molei lugmo, and it depends how big you are. And therefore, it can be less than the revis. It can be even less. It can be more revis. Now, I'll tell you an interesting Bach, a fascinating Bach. The Bach is Shim Peiches. It is a very interesting Bach. It is like this. Seder night, how much do you have to have? Does anybody know? Of course. The Bach, why? We pass connect tastes, so you can have Molly Lukmov. Or Kiddush, we're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so what's there? You're right, that's Kiddush. What's the difference between Kiddush and Seder night?
You can make
Oh, I was saying it.
You can make Kiddush challah.
No, he said different. On Kiddush, the mitzvah is to make a bracha on wine. Now, you don't want to put the cup down. So what you do is, you have to drink some of it. Once you try to look what is enough. The 4 cases, there's a mitzvah to drink a cup. Since you have to drink a cup, so if you have less than 5 kos, you haven't drunk a cup of wine. So therefore, the mitzvah is abba krisis. It's 4 cups. It's not a mitzvah of drinking wine. It's a mitzvah of 4 cups.
Small cup, but you don't have money.
Oh. So if you have a small cup, it might be a problem because it's not 4 krisis, that's bevis. But if you have a cup which is exactly bevis, yes, that's right. So we're more machmir Seder night than any other night of the year, and people should be aware of it. Seder night, you have to drink roiv kos, and in fact, the Bach himself says, and many others, you should drink the whole cup. Right? You should drink the whole cup if you can. Obviously, if you can't, roiv kos is enough. But molei lugmov is not enough. Another machlokes is Tosafot says that if you've got a very big mouth, you have to drink even more. The Ran argues vehemently on Tosafot, says, Achrakli, say such a thing. Molei lugmov is the shir that Chazal decided, and molei lugmov is roiv bevis, it doesn't matter. Right. Another shaila is, can you share it out, which everybody will see more later? Tosafot passes you can share it out. So let's say, but can you share it out Seder night? No. Because Seder night is in the kos. It's a very important thing.
Each person needs his own kos.
Each person needs his own kos. So if you share it out, your cup, you can't drink a whole roiv kos. So I have a sip, you have a sip, you have a sip, it doesn't good. This Kiddush you can. Why? Oh, I need to have molei lugmov. The answer is, mitzad the chashivos of the wine, you have to have molei lugmov. If I have a quarter of a cup, and you have a quarter of a cup, you have a quarter of a cup, molei lugmov has been drunk. So the fact that I didn't drink molei lugmov is okay. So that's a very important. So for Havdalah, for example, you need to have molei lugmov, etc. So this is important. The Tosafot of here says 2 kula. A kula the chumrah. The Oimer Chabosh has to drink more, which we don't pass connect, by the way. Oimer does not need to drink more. But a big kula over here is that you only have to have roiv bevis. And Tosafot says that Yehuda Steinberg with the kasa is the same thing by Seder night. Tosafot is quoting more Seder night. According to Tosafot, molei lugmov works Sunday Seder night as well. And as I said, the Bach argues with Tosafot, and the Mechaber also does not pass by Tosafot, that Seder night molei lugmov is no good. It's no good. Another thing you should be aware is when you shouldn't hold molei lugmov, you have to have 2. The Rabbi said that we don't pass. You don't have to have 2 shikvos. So the night for Havdalah, I didn't feel so good. So what I did was I only had 1 molei lugmov. I mean, I only had roiv with this. I didn't bother having go with this because I was drinking wine. Still wine. I wasn't sure. So I drink grape juice, a whole cup outside, that better to have 1 molei. Tosafot says, what can I do? Tosafot says it. And even though they only argue by Seder night, or they argue molei lugmov by Kiddush, we don't pass it like that. So I decided to stick to the molei lugmov. But I never heard of Gidul Bar Minyumi, and if you read at the side, Gidul Bar Nash, it wasn't that Gidul. There's 3 Giduls. There wasn't any of the 3, meaning Elo Gidul's stomach. I only heard the name of Gidul, but I don't know who it was. The man of Kimin and remember the day to ask a stira from him to him. Says the Gemara that you don't know who said it. If you don't know who said it, you can't ask a stira. Since you can't ask, you don't know who did it, so therefore you can't ask a stira. So Gidul said it, that you have to have molei lugmov, but we don't know which Gidul it was. And therefore, if you find another Gidul that says the opposite, you can't ask this a question. Samuch lemincha. Eboilahu. Samuch lemincha gedolah tanana domo samuch lemincha k'tanata. We said already on the Mishnah the 2 kinds of minchas. Mincha gedolah is when? The early one, after it's 12:30, if it's from 6 to 6.5 hours. Mincha k'tana is 3:30, sorry, 9.5 hours. I remember once I had guests, and there was a woman there, one of them, and she asked me a question. Why is Mincha called Mincha? Mincha is for the Talmud of the morning Shachris, and the afternoon is Talmud Shemini Arbaim. Why call it Mincha? You bring a common Mincha in the morning, you have Mincha in the afternoon. Why call it Mincha? I felt like the biggest fool in the world that I did not know the answer. Anyway, not a woman, that was the problem. The man had been okay. The Beis, I looked it up very quickly, and I found, Baruch Hashem, Tosafot on our page, so in case you ever get embarrassed, so now you can save face. Tosafot, fake Tosafot, let's just see Tosafot. Samuch lemincha tema, And my code mincha. Why is it called mincha? Dibi should the mincha is to kiv without buying, and you have a shachar kiv mincha chivit mincha stomach. Every day you bring a mincha, the more you have to do. You've got another name. In the morning you call it shachris, which means morning, plus mincha. So we chose the one shachris. You could call it mincha. But in the afternoon you can't call it shachris. It's not morning. So the only name you could think of is mincha. The Shemesh Hasakos Mincha Neno Kachkolet for the Mincha Shozer Shasvots, and then it was called the Shasvots. That means it was a time of Rotzen from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, was when he brought the common Mincha of the Mincha Stomid of Eliyahu. That's what called Mincha. Now, Dvam says a very, very strange answer. The Dvam says that Odom Arisha did an Aveya. When did he do the Aveya? Before Shabbos. It was the 10th hour of the day, and it was Leruach Hayoim. The Targum says Lemanach Hayoim, from the way the wind was blowing. So mincha is the time when the wind was the direction of the wind of the day. So therefore, that's what called mincha, to remember that original aveh which was done at that time, which was the 10th hour of the day. Okay, so it's a not easy answer. None of these answers are like easy to say. It sounds interesting that we call it mincha when really bring a mincha in the morning. It's got two answers. I've got another. The Gemara says that mincha is a special tefillah because that's what the Gemara answered the Yom. So the question is like this: which mincha did the Mishnah mean? And the Gemara we hear says an interesting pshat. There are two important things that we do on the Erev Pesach. One is the Korban Pesach, and the other is we eat matzah. Now, if we say let's imagine the days from 6 till 6, so the Mincha Gedola is 12:30, Mincha Ketana is 3:30. If the problem of eating on the Erev Pesach is because of matzah, it's logical to say which Mincha we're referring to, the latter Mincha, because if you eat till 12:30, it's not going to make you lose your appetite at night. That's very strange, 6 hours later. So therefore, it must be the later mincha. If the reason is because of Korban Pesach, it makes sense the earlier mincha. Because when do you bring the Korban Pesach? Early in the afternoon. The later one, by then you're ready for the Korban Pesach. Says it like this. Is it because of the earlier mincha? Or Mishum Pesach, the Ma'asin and Mimshach, you might get drawn into your meal. Comes down with Beis. You might not do the Korban Pesach properly. And Tesa says, if that's the case, so say after I bring my Korban Pesach, I'm allowed to eat. So Tesa no. After you bring your Korban Pesach, you're starting to roast it. You've got other jobs to do. So if it's because of Korban Pesach, you're not allowed to eat already from 12:30. Maybe you come to eat achila gasa. So the question is it because of the matzah or because of the Pesach? Agripas would only get up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. On that day of Erev Pesach, no, I shouldn't get up. He never ate till 3 o'clock in the afternoon. He can't eat on the Erev Pesach. Why? Because it's very close to Mincha. It's go to the latter Mincha. That's what's special about Agripas. What's special about Agripas? If he only starts eating at 3 o'clock, it's only 2.5 hours after the time we should stop eating before it's can't eat it. So go save my Busid Agripas, what's special about Agripas. By the time he starts around to eat 3 o'clock, it's already awesome. Now the thing that Tisha shows that Agripas, Kaba shows the Don Domi Kamash Malon, that not. So again, so Agripas would only start eating at 3 o'clock. He was very special, he never ate. If you say the reason is because of Mincha Ketana, so that makes sense. It's choshev because everybody else was allowed to eat till 3 o'clock. And he's only started to eat 3 o'clock, so maybe we should give him dispensation to eat. But if you say everybody else has to stop eating at 12:30, of course can't eat at 3 o'clock. There's a lot of topics that are very briefly. Let's just see the third taste inside, very short taste. He was a good king. We'll see other places he was a good king. He was descended from Chashmonaim. The second point, he was a good person, that's true. But the second point, that he was descended from Chashmonaim, that's not true. He was descended from who? Who knows? Who was Agrippus descended from? A terrible, terrible, terrible man.
No, not Herod.
Herod, very good. Hold us. I'm
not so clever, I was very else.
Oh, I'm so excited. No. Agrippa said, okay. That is okay, that's just ancient Tesa. Tesa also asks a question why he waited so long to eat. Tesa says because the Rashbam says because he would wait like a Talmid Chacham waits to eat a long time. Tesa doesn't like that.
Rashi on the Mishnah,
Yes.
Matzah.
Yeah, Rashi misses, and Rashi also says Mincha Ketano, because Rashi holds like the Maskana of our Sugi. But it's a very sadistic Tesis. The second Tesis in this page, we're going to stop with this Tesis. We've got to lose the time because there's short daf and everything else. But Tosfos just says a very interesting question: is achila gasa eating or not? I mean, let's say you're absolutely stuffed and you eat on Yom Kippur. Are you chayv? Have you done an avei or not? The Gemara says you haven't. No, because you're not eating. That's not called eating. Tosfos that we see in other places that it is considered eating. I don't go into all the tastes, but if you can see Rabbi Tam, it's about 6 lines of taste. It's a trey gam achila gasa. There are 2 kinds of achila gasa. Achas nafshi kotza milechel. A person is sick from eating. I mean, it's not. He can't eat. Al oisa poter b'yom kippur. V'esh achila gasa she'eni misava lechel ayech shvotam. So how are the Pesach lechel esiv and the shemisava lechel k'tzas? A person wants to eat. And this Tosfos is mentioned in many places. Whenever we talk about achila gasa, which kind of achila gasa we talk about? There's many gemaras about achila gasa, and you have to remember there's 2 kinds of achila gasa. There's achila gasa where you are happy to eat. You just don't. No, you can easily eat. You just don't have an appetite. That means you can eat, but you don't have. You don't. It's not geschmack to eat. There's other times when you're sickened by the food, and there's 2 separate things. When you're sickened by the food, you're not kind of mitzvah. The Mishnah Berurah writes that if somebody say the night eats a big shulchan aruch and he's sickened by the afikomen, he's not eating afikomen. He actually hasn't eaten afikomen. Why? Like this Tosfos over here, he mentioned. I mean, he quotes why? Because Tosfos says if you eat on Yom Kippur achila gasa, he's not actually done an avei of eating on Yom Kippur. Why? Because it's not so called eating.
Let's say you eat your first matzah, yeah? First thing you matzah, you make proper mixed matzah, yeah?
Yes.
And then afterwards, for whatever reason, you throw up. You need to eat again or not?
Oh, Mishmor discusses that. Mishmor says it's okay if you've sickened your matzah, then as long as it went down to your stomach, you're okay. Mishmor then afterwards says that if you want to be machne, you should have another. It's quite rare. We say, yeah. Mishmor then talks about moed, and by moed side.
If you're not particularly hungry,
Oh, that's
you
okay.
shouldn't eat because you're not against the mitzvah. You should wait
No,
for
a second. That's the second. The first one is you're sickened, then you're not kind of mitzvah. You haven't actually eaten afikomen. Says the Mishnah Berurah, what's an afkimina? Mishnah Berurah says, let's say the night, you're sickened when you're eating the afikomen.
No, I'm thinking about any meal.
That's a different part. Let's just finish up this tiny creation. Mishmor says, let's say you're sickened by eating the afikomen. And then half an hour later, you get a tiny bit of appetite, a tiny bit more. So then you mechayiv to eat afikomen because you haven't yet eaten afikomen. So now you have to eat afikomen again. So you have to be very careful with shulchan aruch. You get to my age, well, I don't know why I feel older than you, but I can't eat shulchan aruch. I eat a tiny thing, and that's it. Because
You obviously too much.
it's otherwise I've scared by achila gasa. Anyway, it's fascinating gemaras. We have Baruch Hashem, we managed to do a lot of halachas. We're up to Omar Rabbi Yosi, 8 lines from the bottom. Right. What? I know I'm not old. Maybe my stomach.
Might not go with that for the soda.
Do you mind a minute? Yeah, maybe the worst.
Membership.
Good luck, David.